everyone, welcome to this morning's edition of the MPC Markets Morning Call. I'm Mark Gardner. It's the 24th of March 2026. Stocks were higher overnight as taco is back on the menu. So Trump essentially came out last night and said that there was a deal coming, which is largely unverified. But as you can see here, we just had a bounce back in the general stock market overall. It wasn't really stock specific, to be brutally honest. Micron had a bit of a wobble and started to head lower. I think there's concerns, around supply chain and things like that. But overall, it's well off its highs. It did get up to being up around about 1 or 2%, but only really finished, up about 1. So we did have oil, etc. Basically get belted around about 9 or 10%. And Brent dropped below 100 as well. But April 7 remains the sort of structural deadline where a temporary disruption model expires, and the $110 to $150 scenario becomes the base case if no deal is struck. We've gone through quite a few of the, and we'll just have a look here. Obviously, gold's still down. Silver recovered quite significantly. Copper actually up in the end. Platinum has recovered a bit. Crude down 9. And then you've had some recovery in lithium, uranium, and Bitcoin. So this is a bit of a lead in. This is probably significant in terms of, probably not gold and silver particularly, because I think there's some margin calls and things going on there. They're at incredibly cheap levels in gold and silver here at the moment, and I would expect that I would definitely expect those to bounce, because nothing's changed in terms of the US debt. Nothing's changed in terms of the de-dollarization. If anything, Trump's erratic behaviour and plethora of lies really is just going to make de-dollarization a high priority for most of the countries. The only rush to the US dollar has been on the back of the fact that they're energy independent, and they've got if we're going to be wartime, the US is pretty good friend to have. But yeah, overall, around that, if we get beyond that April 7 deadline, which is not really that far away, we're talking about roughly that 2 weeks mark. We're going to have oil continue to go significantly higher, and I think you'll probably start to see stagflation concerns override temporary inflation concerns, and then bond yields probably start to plummet, and in which case gold and silver are going to start to head back to the upside. So, but I think that when we do get a resolution, I think this is a pretty good lead in terms of copper, lithium, uranium are probably going to be your favourite targets, and then I dare say the Aussie dollar will start to head higher, and the US dollar lower. So it's a fairly good sort of lead in for what potentially to have a look at and what to buy. And what to sell if we start to get a resolution. So this took me around about an hour to an hour and a half to this morning, using multiple large language models, multiple moving of verification through not just US based media and Australian based media, but proper verified global media from the Middle East, from Europe, from everywhere. So basically, very good productive conversations over the last 2 days, and almost complete agreement is completely unsubstantiated. The only person who has said this is Donald Trump. And even the back channel talk, which apparently is going through Oman, Pakistan, and Qatar, no official has verified from any of those countries that any of this has happened whatsoever. Not even anyone at the Republican level. Literally is just Donald Trump. So that's unsubstantiated. It may well be going on. I'm not, I can't outright call him a liar, but I can go very close. confirmed that he ordered the Pentagon to postpone all strikes on Iranian power plants for 5 days due to encouraging talks. That is definitely confirmed. He did give that order. Iran wants to make a deal very badly and has one more chance at peace. The Iranians have come out and flatly said that has not happened. They do not want to make a deal, and so that has been completely contradicted. And then US has obliterated or nearly fully degraded Iran's missiles, Navy, Air Force, nuclear capacity, etc. That is classified as overstated. There are no direct negotiations. This is from the Iranian side. No direct negotiations or communications with the US since the war began, and they've claimed that Trump's claims are fake news. That's overstated, but it's largely true. They've partially verified. Is probably an overstatement here that Turkey, Egypt, Pakistan, etc. are relaying messages about a direct meeting in Islamabad. They are rumours. It has been partially verified, but since I've gone through, and I would say that's probably overstated, not even partially verified, because I ran it again after I read a few more bits and pieces, and it hasn't been verified by any of those countries. So it is literally just Trump's own hallucination loop running here there at the moment. Any strike on your Iranian power plants will trigger a decisive action from Iran. That has been confirmed by Iran, but obviously that still has to happen. And then, the final and unverifiable comment was that Trump's talks announcement was timed to reduce the oil prices and calm markets, and does not reflect any real diplomacy. You can never verify that. But look, the reason I put it there is that it is highly likely that is the case, but it can never, unless someone can get inside Donald Trump's head, they can never be verified. But as you can sort of see here, basically, the Iranians seem to be telling more truth than the President of the United States. Even Republican senators have come out and said they've heard nothing of any of the stuff that he's announced. He's just ad hoc, ad-libbing as he's going through. So the bottom line is that this was the traffic before. You were getting through, we were getting through 20 million barrels a day pre-war baseline in February. 100 to 155 vessels, full flow, 20 million barrels per day. So near total blockade, which is what's been happening since Feb 28th through March 24th, and so roughly 24 days of conflict. They've had 16 vessels get through in the last 7 days. 24 ships have been struck apparently, and they're getting through, basically 2.3 vessels a day, and roughly around about 2 million barrels a day. So yes, this is live as of this morning. So the cumulative oil not shipped so far has been over the 24 days is 420 around approximately. That's what that little squiggly line is. Total barrels not shipped for 24 days is 420 million barrels. Lost oil value at roughly that 126 barrel, peak price is 53 billion just in oil alone. Gulf region exports decline, and then that includes the diversion of some of the supply via the East-West Saudi pipeline. Is 71%, and then I just ran as well because we have had a number of military agencies, and I think a lot of this is coming out of the UK, but there's been fairly solidly verified reports that the Iranians have deployed mines in the Strait. So literally at this case, so weeks to return to normal if a peace deal was struck today. So best case is 12 to 16 weeks. Base case is 20 to 26 weeks. And then look, if there's any structural damage, we're looking at a year to get back to normal. So I would say that, Trump's taco is, at least it's reasonable. I wouldn't like to see any structural damage done, and that's what I think everyone's sort of getting on board. This is trying to talk Trump down, but insurance reinstatement alone is going to take 2 to 4 weeks. Shipping ramp up is going to take 3 to 6 weeks. So this is where this April 7 deadline is massive. Is that if we get to that point, basically this becomes this then becomes return to normal, just gets wound out so much further. Asia, ex-China, and Australia and Europe will cop the absolute brunt of it. And there are reports that we're going to have to do odds and evens deals in Australia. There's, fuel, because of our incompetent government, basically going to and not holding enough in reserve, which I'm assuming that there should be some form of royal commission in at some stage, which will yet again yield nothing. But there's rumours floating around that essentially, we're potentially be requests for work from home and all sorts of things, and fuel rationing, etc. Whether that ends up being true or not is a different matter. We haven't heard from the government officially yet, but we'll go and we'll see how this plays out. But there is basically 24 days, including ships heading our way, of fuel left for Australia. So and that is very concerning for our local economy. So yeah, it's a very fluid situation at the moment. It's very hard to find out, because at the moment all the media is reporting is that there's talks. There is not talks. That has not been verified by anyone except Donald Trump, which is, a stretch of the truth at best. This is likely an opportunity to be buying oil here at the moment, or maybe getting out of some of your positions, because we're going to open up about 2% here today, but judging on futures. So, if you're thinking, oh, this is all over, you've probably got rocks in your head, I would say. And there are going to be some minimum, if a peace deal was struck, and even if you get the Islamabad meeting, which is still just rank speculation, essentially we're still going to get very close to that April 7 deadline. And, Iran's hardly going to give away their leverage. So yeah, but if you want to keep up to date with all this, we're running fresh stats most days. We're running verification on all of the news stories, etc. You need to get Mosaic. So you get your first month free, and there's free trials, but we're keeping things up to date. It's not really just enough to be, casually flicking through and grabbing your news from Google. You need to know what the knock-on effects are going to be here for your portfolio. Obviously you can't scan the QR code. We've had technical issues here this morning, but you can go to mosaic.mpcmarkets.com.au and get your free trial. And there's 4 stock recommendation services, which are obviously very mindful of what's going on here at the moment and for future moves. But it's definitely a time to be reviewing your portfolio, and definitely a time to be which you can actually do with us. Just go send an email to portfolioReview@mpcmarkets.com.au. But have a good day out there. At least there's some minor relief for the portfolios in the market overall. But be smart about it and go through and take advantage of this bounce in the near term. Have a great day, people. Speak to you tomorrow. General advice warning. The content presented in this presentation is intended for informational purposes only and provides general advice only. It does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or specific needs. This information should not be the sole resource when making investment decisions. We strongly recommend you seek the advice of a financial professional.